Welcome, my brother,
Okay.
and Happy New Year to you.
But same to you. Good
Very
morning.
good. All right, let's get into this matter. This is the second commissioner of police. We learned that there was Mr. Randolph Barrows was also removed or was arrested in office. So Earl Christopher adds to the list of two commissioner of police being arrested in office. So just overview as to the whole scenario surrounding this incident.
Well, yeah, sure. Good morning again. It has to do with the process. There's something known as the Professional Standards Bureau. Within the last decade or so, this unit has been instrumental in spending more time in trying to target persons senior to the officers in that unit. It has become a fishing expedition, sometimes even a witch hunt. And if it is that you can't get the person ahead of you because you don't have the capability, you try to liaise with politicians. That's what happened myself. Those individuals who did what they did to Ula, they certainly couldn't have come up in my office and did that to me. I would have told them exactly where to get off, because if it is you want to interview and investigate a commissioner, you write to the police service commission, which is what the DCPs should have done. Write to the police service commission, say that there's an investigation, and then the police service commission would have asked her to go on administrative leave, not in any way alluding that she has done anything wrong, but to ensure transparency. So if and when she's cleared, no one could say that she would interfere in the investigation. You don't go and barge into a commissioner's office. This was unprofessional. It was irresponsible behavior, but that is how they operate. In my situation, they made lies and went to the politician with lies, and that's why you notice after 3 years, with all of the talk about firearms, not one person has been questioned, not one person arrested, not one person charged, pertaining to all of these Stanley John reports and audits and all of that, because it was a witch hunt in the hope that they could remove me so that somebody else will take over. And then when that person took over in local parlance, he got his foot bust too. And then Ula took over, and then the same thing happened. So it is unfortunate, and that is why I recommend that Professional Standards Bureau should be removed immediately. It has been nothing more than a target person senior team to try to remove them. And that PSP should go under the Police Complaints Authority, separate and apart from the police service, because we are not mature enough as a nation to have police officers investigate police officers, similar to what you have in the internal affairs in the United States. Put it under the PCA, probably give the director of the PCA ACP position as an SRP, and let him have officers under his control that it cannot cause intimidation and abuse of authority. This situation alone, by the legal department of that police service, all of those persons in the legal department responsible for this investigation should be removed immediately. It shows their incompetence, because you put a commissioner of police under all of this for 3 days and you still didn't have enough evidence to push for a charge. So it shows incompetence, it shows arrogance, and it shows unprofessionalism at the highest order.
All right. One of the concerns or the questions that I've been wanting to ask someone who have been there before yourself, just speak to us of who has the authority to import any weapon of any kind, any gun, handgun, be it rifles. Who has the authority? Does the commissioner makes the inventory and say to Minister of National Security, we need this amount of guns, we need this amount of bulletproof vests? Who and how does the importation happen? We have a legal or someone who is authorized to bring firearm into this country. You being former commissioner would know the signing off of the importation of any weapon falls under whose remit?
Yeah, totally, yeah, and solely the commissioner of police. Just to note, the Tobago Police Service has spent more time involved in investigating legal firearms over the last 4 years than dealing with illegal firearms that have contributed to almost 100% of murders by firearm. That again shows the madness we are going through. In the last 3 years, was 80 police officers spending over 500,000 police hours that could have been used to secure citizens in this country. But they went on a fishing expedition with no data, no witnesses, no complainant, no documentation, no evidence, but being told, see what you could find. And so it is the commissioner of police, and you have firearm dealers, and the firearm dealers will make orders based on the demand. So in other words, if the defense force needs to get 50 automatic weapons, they will go to certain dealers. The dealers will now make the order will now come through. And there's a process of so much documentation before it gets to the office of the Commissioner of Police for his or her final signature. And that is why this situation is so embarrassing, because this is not about illegal firearms. This is not about bribery. This is about a Commissioner of Police trying to see if she could assist in getting sniper rifles for the SSA. Now, this is where the problem, this is where the situation takes place here. There is, and this is what I believe may have taken place. The legal department in the police service may have been foolish enough to think that a sniper rifle is a prohibited weapon. Prohibited weapons could only be issued to the defense force and the police service, law enforcement agencies. The SSA is not a law enforcement agency. They are all employed by civilians are employed, so it's basically a civilian organization that is involved in national security, but they have no law enforcement authority, which means they are not eligible to have prohibited weapons. Carrying a sniper weapon that can be used to take out terrorists and to assassinate people, maybe somebody in the police service foolishly thought, well, this is a prohibited weapon, so if it was told to the SSA, then the commissioner and the then director of the SSA broke the law. A sniper rifle is not a prohibited weapon because it is not an automatic weapon. And I think that is where the problem lies. The SSA may have made the request on behalf of the TTDF because the TTDF needed the sniper weapons. The SSA, what I've been told is that they brought it in to ensure that there's a degree of secrecy and confidentiality. You don't want each and every person who's a possible terrorist out there or criminal or gang member to know the type of firepower that the law enforcement agencies have. So the SSA, believing that this could be done in a more confidential manner than coming from the defense force, decided to acquire it to give to the defense force. I think it's a little untidy, but I understand the rationale behind it. I would not have done it. But there's nothing illegal about it. And if that is the reason for arresting Willa Christopher, then there's no surprise that is why the GPP released her, because that is not a criminal offense. So as I said, to sum it up, there will be a demand, whether it be from persons who are applying for firearms and they got it approved from the commissioner to the law enforcement agencies asking for weapons. The firearm dealers will then make the order, it will then come through, and there's a massive process of documentation before it gets final sign-off by the Commissioner of Police.
All right, I want to get, all right, so the Commissioner of Police did no wrong in signing off on these two weapons, given that it was needed by the SSA. All right, the Strategic Services Agency, you just made that very clear. All right, so there is no real grounds, you've sort of went to it there just now. There's no real grounds for her being arrested. You just said the DDP, they had to release her given that there is no, if you want to call it, evidence of wrongdoing. You just said that these two weapons are not illegal weapons.
Prohibited.
Right.
Yeah.
So the attorney has now made a very strong case that if she is not, well, she's saying the Police Service Commission has a matter of 7 days to respond to the action that may follow. She's going to, well, should she be reinstated? I guess that is where, as to bring back some level of dignity to her, you know, obviously she's would have suffered a great, you know, embarrassment given of the nature of this arrest. What grounds and what legal direction she can take so as to get some solace in terms of her dignity restored?
Well, the first thing is to restore your dignity, you need to show confidence in yourself. Certainly if Gary Griffith went through that process and I came out, I will not have an attorney speak for me and I'll be staying silent. And then hear an attorney say, well, if she speaks, then I will no longer be her attorney. You're a commissioner of police. You're supposed to lead 7,000 people. I will immediately show control that I am the commissioner of police. But you sit down there like a little pummy one and stay quiet and say, well, my lawyer is going to speak for me as if I'm a junior constable, unable to be confident in myself to let the country know what has transpired. So that is difference in leadership with herself and me or others. So that's one thing by itself. But as it pertains to the legal situation, she has a very good attorney in Pamela Elder. But in my view, in this situation, they don't have much to hold to justify returning to office at this time. And I'll tell you why. Because unfortunately, the police service have stated that the matter is still being investigated. If the police service can state it is still being investigated and the case has not closed, all that has happened so far is the DPP chased them like a dog and said, listen, you don't have enough evidence, get away from here with that nonsense. Go back and come again. Go back and come again means that they are still investigating to see if they could find something to justify a charge. So if the commissioner is still under investigation, that could be grounds for the Police Service Commission to tell Earl Christopher, we are not blaming you, we are not accusing you, but if you are under investigation, then by all right, you should not be in office, and it is to protect yourself and your good name as well, because you don't want to be in office, being investigated, and then when you are cleared, people will say, well, the only reason you are cleared is because you were in office and you contaminated the investigation. You pull yourself away, let the investigation go through, and then when it is cleared, then you can now come and say, well, I could return to office. But knowing how the police operates, this investigation is going to go on for several months, if not years, and by that time, Earl Christopher will be no more. But I think that, as I said, the Police Service Commission, they have very good grounds to justify not returning her to office, even though that Pamela Elder is making this threat, I think it's by 2 p.m. this afternoon. Because if a police officer is still being investigated, it is more than enough grounds for the Police Service Commission to state that you need to go on administrative leave. Not to say that we believe that you're guilty, but to ensure there's transparency. So in other words, in my situation, when there was this investigation they wanted to do on firearms, when there was no complaint and no report, nothing at all, initially they tried to suspend me, and I said, hey, you're suspending me, but I am not a suspect. I have never been a suspect. I've never been questioned. And then they realized they made a mistake and they pulled it back. So you could send a commissioner on administrative leave if it is that you believe that the officer is being investigated by the police and you want to ensure transparency. And I think that is what would happen in this situation.
All right. On tomorrow, the House of Representatives will meet to debate the appointment of Junior Benjamin as acting commissioner. Just your thoughts on, well, Junior Benjamin is obviously chosen to become acting commissioner. Your thoughts on the process? Obviously, that was recommended also. Well, the Police Service Commission has its role to play, and we know tomorrow they will debate. Your thoughts?
Well, it shows definitely we have to change the system. People would have heard this individual going in church, preaching, and shouting at civilians, telling them, you must not be afraid whilst he's wearing a bulletproof vest, and then shouting out that he's going to be the next commissioner of police. I think people would have heard his 2-minute video yesterday, which was unbelievable that this person has leadership qualities. And this is not to go bashing Earl Christopher or Benjamin or McDonald Jacob, but it's either you have it or you don't have it. And the problem we have is the present system that selects acting commissioners of police and substantive commissioners of police. It is flawed. Persons like that can't even, I wouldn't input that persons like that to run an all-force team in Maracas on a Sunday when you look at the leadership qualities of individuals like that. Because the acting commissioner of police is usually selected on the most senior person. So because I joined 200 years ago, it means it's my time now. That is not how you select acting commissioners of police. But the Police Service Commission, they do that because they have no other choice. It gets even worse with the selection of the substantive commissioner of police. In 2013 up to 2018, we had a process where international experts will go through a rigorous process to look for the best person to make commissioner of police. That is how Dwayne Gibbs beat Stephen Williams inside out. And then the UNC decided to remove Dwayne Gibbs and bring back Stephen Williams. Only the UNC could explain that. And that is why in 2018, and that was Penn State at the time who did that assessment, qualified international experts that know how to assess commissioners to select them. In 2018, when I applied, I got 82%. Earl Christopher got 52%, 30% less. She didn't even come in the top 20. Again, by international qualified experts from the United Kingdom who select commissioners around the world. Bam! Some bright politician had the idea, let's move the international experts and let the locals decide. So you bring the Police Service Commission, and that is how Judith Jones, and then another one who's a financial consultant and an accountant and another speaking consultant, they have no qualification, knowledge, training, or experience in national security, criminology, or anything. And they selected, so from somebody who didn't come in the top 20 by experts, these jokers in the Police Service Commission put Earl Christopher first and then had the audacity to renew it. So it shows there's nobody in the country qualified to assess who should be a commissioner. None. The Police Service Commission can assess your performance whilst you're in office because there's a template. The reduction of crime, public trust and confidence in the police, public trust and confidence in the commissioner, how you deal with finances, administration, moral. So you have a template. It's an idiot's guide. So you don't need to be an expert. But to select a commissioner, you cannot have the Police Service Commission doing interviews and somebody who didn't come in the top 20 by experts, she's now imposed on the country as number one. And this is no fault of Earl. It was her right to apply. So that is the problem. We need to go back to experts selecting the person for commissioner of police, and it also prevents politicization of the situation. Because even then in 2018, when I got 82%, I got more than 60 odd persons who applied for commissioner. And the Police Service Commission said, okay, you got the most amount of points, but we're going to put your foot. Why? Because that Police Service Commission was selected by the UNC government previously, and the UNC abstained when I got in. So it shows, was there a degree of somebody whispering to you, hey, I remember I put you there, even though I'm in opposition. And then they now place me forth without any reason. So when you have a Police Service Commission who is handpicked by a president who's a puppet of politicians, this can cause politicization of the appointment, which is why it is important we need to go back to international experts without any interference and making sure you get the best persons. Other than that, we will continue to get our Earlers, McDonald, Jacob, and Benjamin.
All right, Mr. Griffith, we want to thank you very much for being with us this morning, and thank you for that. We'll chat again. All the best to you.
Thank you.